Welcome to another Zeteo Town Hall. I'm Mehdi Hassan, the editor-in-chief of Zeteo. This is a very different town hall today. We're doing a little bit of a debate, a good faith debate, a debate on the liberal left, on a big issue in the Democratic Party right now, which is Graham Platner, the very popular and populist Senate Democratic candidate trying to get the nomination to challenge Susan Collins next year, leading against the incumbent governor, Janet Mills, but plagued by multiple scandals and controversies, the latest being that he had a tattoo on his chest that turned out to be an SS Nazi tattoo. He says he didn't know. Someone else says he did know. Multiple other things are being thrown at him. He says this is oppo from people trying to stop a populist candidate. The establishment are trying to stop him. We thought, why not debate this subject? Should Graham Platner step aside? Are the controversies too big? Will he risk losing the Democrats' estate that they have a very good chance in against Susan, I have concerns, Collins next year? Who better to debate this than two people from two different sides of the party? My good friend Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks, founder, CEO, host of the Young Turks, former congressional candidate in California, populist, proud populist, and Kaivan Shroff, progressive commentator. He was with the Hillary Clinton 2016 campaign, DNC delegate last year. I've seen him kick some ass on News Nation too. So thank you both for joining me. Appreciate it. We've got questions going to come from the chat. There's already more than 120 of you in there. Please do leave your questions in the Q&A. I'm going to ask my own questions, then bring audience questions in. But Cenk, let me start with you. Graham Platner, should he step down? Is a Nazi tattoo just a line too far to cross?
Yeah, no, he definitely should not step down. Is it oppo research? Of course it is. I don't know that anybody could argue that. Do they only do oppo research against people that are trying to actually bring you change and not kiss the ass of the establishment? Yes. Does mainstream media love running that kind of oppo research to destroy all outsiders, progressives, and populists? Yes. Is this the same exact pattern? Yes. So now when you get into the specifics, first of all, I am hesitant to get into the specifics simply because it's a hatchet job. So you're awarding a hatchet job when you even talk about this nonsense. Oh, he wrote something 12 years ago. I mean, just so that what you're telling me is, oh, you got nothing on him now. Okay, so his campaign is super effective. His policies are great. You have nothing to run against him on, so you just want to smear him. On the Nazi tattoo, if he got a swastika, I'd be like, whoa, what the hell is that? Okay, so this is an obscure skull and bones thing. He says he didn't know it was a Nazi tattoo. Well, all right, well, context clues matter, right? So number one, I didn't know what it was. I'd never seen anything like that. Number two, okay, what else did he write online at around the same time? Anything that gives you a whiff of being a Nazi or far right or anti-Semitic? Well, no, he's got a lot of questionable posts, so it's not like he wasn't speaking his mind, frankly, but nothing at all in that direction. Okay. Instead, he's also labeled as a communist, so I think the detractors should make up their mind on whether he's a communist or a Nazi.
Kaivan, do you think he should step aside, or at least shouldn't be the candidate next year because he's either a Nazi or a communist?
Yeah, I'm not going to label him either a Nazi or a communist, but I do think with my goal being, and I think it's a shared goal of many, to defeat Susan Collins, I would like to see him maybe step aside. Maybe he can wait it out a couple more weeks and we'll see what's going to come. But I say that because I think, first of all, I agree with folks that iron can sharpen iron. Primaries can be a good thing with two fundamental basic principles, though. One, that as the people are vetted and as this type of information comes out, you don't engage in blanket denialism and you actually engage with those facts and those issues. And that number two, you don't run and say every single thing's a vast establishment conspiracy by the DNC. And I think what concerns me about him staying in is he's already taken that tack. And it's interesting to see because either he's apologetic and contrite and owning it and sorry and learning, or it's a vast conspiracy from the DNC. And he really got to that second part pretty quickly, and I don't think it's justifiable. I mean, the oppo research is a giant tattoo on his own body, which, by the way, was really taken to the national stage by Pod Save America. It does seem like it was a friendly release, and he got to address it. By the way, for the people saying, let's keep this in Maine and let Mainers decide, he's doing a whole lot of national media for this to be just about Maine. And second, all the Reddit posts, I mean, we are in 2025, so you know if you're going to run for office, I think it's just a basic judgment thing. you got to clean that stuff up or you got to be ready to address it. And it's not some oppo dump from Janet Mills. CNN saw that he had linked on a Twitter account that he deleted his old Reddit. So, I mean, it's really sloppy all over the place. And my concern is that him not dropping out will make this so negative and so divisive as we've seen before. So I think the focus should just be winning.
Liking this video? Then don't just watch, hit like, share and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive content, then you have to head to Zeteo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism. Kaivan makes a lot of points there. Just pick up on the one at the end there about just incompetence. Like, let's say this guy's a good guy. He's not a Nazi. He made a mistake, whatever it is. But just from a judgment point of view, did he not think walking around, according to his former campaign or political director who quit last week in protest, she said he knew that the tattoo would be an issue for several weeks. He didn't get rid of it till this week. Is there a judgment issue here from this guy? Isn't it great to have like fresh blood in the party? But on the other hand, the fresh blood doesn't have political experience. Maybe he should have just thought, the Reddit post, the tattoo, I need to deal with this. No?
No. So look, there's two things that Kaivan brought up that are related. So first of all, he said, "Oh, I want to win." Good news, Platner's winning.
Polling was before this.
It's came out today, okay? But all right, fine.
Although he has a 30-point lead, Cenk, but much of the polling
he has
was
a 30-point. So he has a 30-point lead.
Tattoo.
So he's got a 30-point lead on the hack establishment corporate Democrat. So the hacks come in with, all right, well, let's chop away at him and let's do Oppo research. Saying that this isn't Oppo research is preposterous. I mean, it's Oppo research 101. And so, like, all of a sudden,
but does it matter whether it's Oppo or not? The point is, it's out there. No,
it does matter.
What do you do about it?
So let me connect it. Let me connect it.
Okay, go
it matters because, for example, when I started Justice Democrats, along with 3 other co-founders, the alt-right targeted me. So what they did was they went looking for a scandal. They called literally every woman who's ever worked at the Young Turks and found nothing at all, right? So then they went looking and looking, and they found old deleted blog posts from the 1990s. And what happened next? Now, that's garbage. It was back when I was conservative. I was a shock jock, etc. Obviously, I'm greatly changed 20 years later, right? And I deleted them 15 years before. But did it matter? It didn't matter at all. Then mainstream media picked it up.
You make a good point, but can I jump in? Matt Walsh is going after me this week over things I said nearly 20 years ago, which is lazy hatchet jobs, as you just said. Problem for Graham Platner is the stuff that came out this week, the stuff about the anti-LGBT stuff, is from 2021, 2020, 2019. This is like 4 or 5 years ago when he was in his mid-30s.
Yeah, I hear you. And so, look, guys, here's the central question. And look, I'm not saying that this is not debatable. In fact, Anna and I debated this quite vociferously on the Young Turks last night. So she's worried about Fetterman and red flags and etc. I get it. On the other hand, guys, is he a secret Nazi and a secret right-winger and a secret communist?
I don't think anyone...
But you're moving the goalpost. I think the question is he electable?
Let me finish. But he's running on a beautiful, populist, progressive platform. And is it like to trick us? Or do you think he actually evolved his positions like all of us did?
I'm going to bring Kaivan back in. But before I do, Raymond Ampel in the chat. I'm going to start bringing questions ad hoc because you just mentioned Fetterman. I think folks are just a little wary of Senate candidates who can come off as progressive, then end up being a letdown like Sinema, Gillibrand, or John Fetterman. Cenk, the John Fetterman thing doesn't worry you. I've spent the last year kicking myself for having ever supported John Fetterman, the worst Democrat in the Senate right now.
Yeah, of course it bothers me. But one of our viewers made a great point about the debate Anna and I had. So what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to give up and just vote for the worst candidate? We know Mims is not going to win. We know she's and even if she did win, she wouldn't do anything. She's a standard establishment Democrat. Are we just supposed to give it to Susan Collins? What are we supposed to do? Just sit on our couch? No, you gamble. You say, well, I don't want to gamble. Well, their politicians were always gambling, right? But this is a better gamble than the corporate Democrat. And I think that's kind of indisputable.
It's not really. I don't think it is because we don't have the information on the guy. That's what makes it a much worse gamble. And everything that we're learning seems to be negative. And by the way, we aren't having the policy debates and discussions. He doesn't really have very detailed policy plans, by the way. Janet Mills has an established record. By the way, I'm no huge Mills fan. Do I think a 77-year-old governor is the ideal choice? I mean, she has a proven record. She is safe. And by the way, if we can just win that seat, yes, it's much better than having Susan Collins in that seat to have a safe, boring Democrat. I do think so, who's, by the way, committed to one term. And also, I think the effort to constantly take these candidates and make them national and have it be a proxy battle for the future of the Democratic Party does a huge disservice to those progressives that want to make their case, because that's not how a test case works. You actually have to prove that the test worked. And every time we have 2 viral videos and a couple weeks of hype and national fundraising, it's, oh, the whole Democratic Party has to go in this direction, and it's not compelling. And then you get back into all the proxy fights of 2016, which is, well, why is Janet Mills too old but not Bernie Sanders? All of those things come up, and it's not productive.
Okay, let me put. I have a point I want to bring up with Kaivan, but very briefly, Cenk, deal with that point. Why is Janet Mills too old but not Bernie Sanders?
No, hold on. Why are we assuming Janet Mills is going to win? The corporate
Can you
Democrat
answer
that
any of the
Schumer,
questions
hold on. The corporate Democrat that Schumer picks loses like 98% of the time. They're like the worst candidates. So she's just going to go out there and be like, oh, I love corporate donors. That's not going to beat Susan Collins. We've already tried that 100 times. So to me, Mills is a guaranteed loss. That's not a gamble. You're almost definitely going to lose. So why would I go in that direction? That makes no sense at all. And is there a difference between Mills, who's 77, and it keeps getting backed like almost all the corporate Democrats because she delivers for the people who wanted a return on investment, the donor class, the corporate class? Well, that's different than Bernie Sanders, who's still in there because he's backed by the American people and grassroots fundraising and seems alert.
Do you know a lot about Janet Mills' record in Maine, Cenk?
No, I don't.
So then what are you like? So, I mean,
no, I know all the corporate Democrats. I know they're all losers.
But like, this
they
is
all
why
never
I think
do
the
anything.
conversation devolves.
I guarantee you, if she goes to the Senate, she does
it's
nothing.
like, you don't agree with me, you're a corporate neo-lib shit.
Go ahead.
Guys,
give me a record. Give me
Kaivan,
a brilliant record in Maine. Go ahead.
Kaivan, you can tell us about Janet Mills' record in just a moment. Before I do that, just to check, we seem to be arguing on 2 different points here. One is it a liability for Platner to be the candidate or Mills to be the candidate? That's one issue. There's a separate issue, which is who's a better candidate, right? Which Cenk is making a very strong case, which I sympathize with, that Platner's record, the policy platform, is a very good policy platform that people want. Clearly, it's energized people, Kaivan. Do you recognize the distinction between those 2 different points?
Well, I think in the first case, who's a better candidate is hard to answer because we don't know anything about Graham Platner, and who has the better policies and who's more exciting. We also don't really know because we don't know details about Platner's policies. He's really just inherited the Leaders We Deserve hype, the Bernie Sanders hype, the Pod Save America Bros hype. And that's what I'm saying, is that to do this national media tour that we've seen, by the way, again and again and again, he's
come out against genocide, Kaivan, which is a pretty big issue for the Democratic base. I don't know if Janet Mills has.
Sure. I just think every issue, right, is being nationalized, whereas you're saying this is some like DC hack job. His very hyper-local Maine operative political director is one of the people that has the main problem with this and says he's unelectable. They say there's more Oppo research. He said all sorts of things offending local communities in Maine, and we should be able to talk about that in a normal way. By the way, if you want to have him stay in, what I'm saying is stay in, debate the policies, don't do the conspiracy theory delusional smear of this is all, being puppeteered by Hillary Clinton in her basement in Chappaqua. That's not happening.
No, that's absurd. You're saying that Chuck Schumer has nothing to do with this?
No,
that his handpicked candidate enters the race, and all of a sudden a giant dump of Oppo research? Are you really saying Chuck Schumer has nothing to do with it?
By the way, even Hassan Piker, organizer memes, lots of people on the farther left of the spectrum are coming out and saying this makes no sense.
I don't even know what that means. First of all, why do I care what Hassan Piker has to say?
Because I'm just saying that of all the people
I think he's citing Hassan as a leftist, not as your nephew, Cenk, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think he's making the point that
so what?
Sure.
There's a lot of people out to my left that I don't agree with.
But I'm just saying, who's this for then?
Hold on, Cenk, let me jump in and say I've struggled with this, which is why I wanted to moderate this debate, because I've liked Platner up until now. I've been that very clear that I've liked Platner up until now. I like his policy platform. I like the idea that he's populist and he's anti-establishment. But for me, I spend much of my time calling out Republicans for being in Nazi group chats and doing dumb shit and pretending like J.D. Vance coming out and saying, well, it doesn't matter. It's all just edgy humor. And I just think it undermines, no one's saying he's a Nazi, but doesn't it slightly undermine the progressive argument if you're putting up for candidate guy, you're like, well, I'm fine with his Nazi tattoo.
Yeah, it doesn't undermine my argument.
Can I just say one thing about that tattoo, though?
Hold on. Let Cenk finish and then Kaivan, you come back in.
All right, so 2 things there, Mehdi. So first of all, I don't believe in cancel culture, so I've never canceled anybody for stuff like that. So I stay
Hold on.
true to my
You said at the start of
principles.
this interview you would have cancelled him if it was a swastika.
Yeah, okay. So you're right. There is a line at some point. Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. But like, so, and I'm sure that you could find one or two times in public figures where I said, yeah, that's way too far, right? But overall, I don't believe in cancel culture, and you know that. I have an enormous track record of hating cancel culture. Second of all, guys, the context matters so much, because if I thought he was a secret Nazi, would I support him? Absolutely not. Not even close. If I thought for sure that he actually meant to get that Nazi tattoo and liked that it was on his body for all that time, I would be against him. But the context clues suggest otherwise. He's never written anything else like that. He's never showed any anti-Semitic trait.
But it's not,
anything.
I think the difference is
Kaivan.
you're focused on what you think. And I think other people want to talk about what the voters in Maine are going to think and what's possible here. So that is a distinction. And I will say with the tattoo, what we have from present day judgment, I mean, I just think this is a crazy fact pattern. You suddenly learn you're running for Senate with no experience. You haven't been vetted. You learn you have a Nazi tattoo on you that you've had for 20 years. And your solution is to immediately, within 24 hours, get some hideous animal tattooed over it and go on this victim tour. It's very strange behavior to me. It doesn't show somebody with the thoughtfulness, the judgment, the restraint to belong in the Senate. I'm not saying he can't prove those skills, but he has no established record where he's demonstrated. And all we know about him now are pretty negative things and a bunch of viral one-liners that, frankly, a lot of progressives have been saying in the last 5 years, which, by the way, he voted for Susan Collins in Maine until 2020. So he may not be one of those people. Worst case, he's kind of a grifter guy who sees his moment and is saying all the right things. And I'm not saying that. We don't know enough.
Well, a lot of people in the chat are worried about the Fetterman issue, Cenk, that you kind of went over. One person in the chat says, look at the UNH poll, the poll that shows him 30 points clear. It said very clearly that even the people who love Janet Mills and think she was a great governor will back Platner. If Mills is a candidate, a sizable number of Maine Dems will vote for Susan Collins simply on the seniority calculus and tell you they love Mills. She did a great job. I mean, the Mills, we don't know enough about Mills. I'm not a Maine expert. I think Cenk's agreed. But she did win, Cenk. She won the gubernatorial election in 2022, I think, by 12 points. So she's clearly popular in Maine.
Yeah, look, fair enough that I don't know nearly enough about Maine politics, and I don't know that we all are supposed to study Maine politics.
No, but it's about whether it's about whether.
Okay, hold on.
Hold
on. Let me finish. Right, but I do know national politics, and I do know not every time. Sometimes he gets it wrong, but Chuck Schumer almost always picks the worst candidate, and they are picked based on the fact of will they bow their heads to donor class. And so that's the number one trait that Chuck Schumer looks for. His candidates are not universally, 98% of the time, awful. So she is very likely to be awful, plain, vanilla, etc. No. So, okay, so listen, guys, the constant assumption is if you pick a boring, safe, corporate Democrat, they're going to win. That assumption is totally, utterly wrong. And on the Fetterman point, Mehdi, this is really important. Guys, I get it. Fetterman is so toxic that he's unfortunately now getting us to not support other candidates because we're worried they'll turn into Fetterman.
That's true.
But don't let him do double the damage.
By the way, but I should point out, someone
for no reason because of Fetterman, that makes no sense.
Someone pointed out in the chat, Jerry Calderola, that Fetterman had a stroke that debilitated him imperably. I do find it amusing that once
he got brain damage and became a Republican.
I do find it amusing that he got brain damage and became a Republican. Kaivan, let me ask you this. Patrick Loftus in the chat says, I'm a Maine voter. Thank you, Patrick. People here trust Graham. He just had a 500-person town hall last night after Tattoogate. He's clearly the better candidate. What do you say to Patrick?
Based on that people showed up for him now when we're not even close to June, which is the primary, and then not even close to November, 0 ads have been run at all. And I think the key here is about how electoral politics work, which is that against the Democratic primary candidates, he may be doing well. By the way, those polls that we're talking about, polls moved from likely Republican to toss up when Mills entered the race against Collins. And so we can all talk about polls and data, and these polls don't reflect the most recent scandals. But that said,
wait a minute.
He showed up, he's getting an audience. And I'm not there to deny that he has energy and momentum and some communication skills that are resonating with people. But what I'm saying is he's a very risky candidate who hasn't been vetted, who hasn't taken accountability.
Hold on, Kaivan. Take Cenk's specific point that he's made multiple points now, which is there's an assumption that if you put Platner out of the way, you have a better chance. And Cenk's point is these corporate-backed, centrist, whatever you want to call them, mainstream establishment, use your term or pejorative.
But it's
These
not true.
Democrats,
Okay, yeah, so first I want to
hold
argue
on,
with his
they're
data.
not guaranteed a victory. We saw what happened with Andrew Cuomo in New York. We're seeing Mamdani's energy. Horrible candidate, agreed.
I respect you. I respect you a lot,
Hillary
but
Clinton.
I think it's tough to compare Janet Mills to Andrew Cuomo.
Agreed. But could you compare Mamdani's energy and momentum to Graham Platner? Surely you can.
No, because he was an assemblyman who already did that work and went around, by the way, pretty quietly for months and months and months.
But they had lots of oppo on him too. They have him standing next to people.
I know, but I'm saying he was vetted heavily. He was heavily vetted during the primary. And he did the work, and he was in elected
But you're
office.
saying Platner shouldn't be vetted. You're saying Platner should step aside.
And by the way, he's going to be the mayor at an age that everybody wants to pretend Graham Platner was a cherub baby boy. Okay, I mean, it's ridiculous. But back to Cenk's argument. First of all, the data, 98% of Chuck Schumer candidates fail. It's just not true. I mean, if your argument is that, yes, in red states, when there's an opportunity to flip a seat, the tactic has been to pick somebody that might be closer to the center because we think that would appeal to Republicans and independents who could get us over the edge. And may that be a wrong thinking? We don't know. I certainly don't think you have the data to back it up. But at the same time, I do think it's fair to say in an environment where we really aren't identifying any key policy issues in Maine that we think he's doing so much better on. Mills has delivered healthcare, she's delivered education, she's much better on climate than him, a lot of people are saying, and she's done great for the economy, and people are talking about affordability. Now we can talk about the distribution of those economic wins, I think matters, of course. But we should be having those conversations, and again, instead this has been reduced to Graham Platner smearing establishment Democrats as part of this conspiracy against him, instead of taking any accountability that he is a new candidate, right?
I just want to bring in people from our chat. Spike Morales Westlake, he addresses the Fetterman point. He says, John Fetterman courted AIPAC money. Graham Platner resoundingly rejects it. Should we discount that? While flawed that he stands for something, unlike
But
Mills,
he's reading the tea leaves.
who has establishment-endorsed policies that don't excite anyone.
Okay, so
okay, Cenk, go on.
Yeah. So first of all, let's note for the record that an earlier argument was that Mills is so popular in Maine, and you could see it in in her wins and her polling. Then 1 minute later, Mills is losing by 30 points to Platner in the primary. So, okay, so which one is it? Is she popular or not popular? Because she doesn't look popular right now. She looks like she's getting her ass handed to her. So, second of all, this idea that the Mills of the world are closer to the center is a giant misnomer. No, populism is closer to the center. The center of Washington is corruption, and American people hate it. So when you go, oh, I did a bipartisan Republican bill where we cut taxes for the rich, is not something that is at the center of America. It's the center of Washington, D.C. And so, and finally, why don't we just have a primary? Why do you have to cut? Because this is what the establishment. Hold on. Last thing. That's why the establishment always does this. He's disqualified. It's disqualifying. Okay. I don't care who you think is disqualified. Let's go and find out what the voters in Maine think, and then we'll see who's qualified and disqualified.
Sorry, but I started out this debate saying I'm not the morality police, and I'm not going to do that. But can we at least agree that if we're going to have a primary, it's based in actual facts that people
Kaivan, you also said you think he should step aside. You said at the start of this.
I said I would like to see him step aside because if my goal is to beat Susan Collins, not because I'm the morality police. And my point being that I do think that his tactic, which seems to play victim and blame everybody else for generic reporting, again, on a tattoo he has on his body and a Reddit that he linked in his own Twitter account, isn't productive. It's not the type of primary discourse that actually strengthens candidates. It's the type of primary discourse that makes people so disaffected, so angry, and filled with so much hate and disinformation, they then don't go and support
Kaivan,
you guys are the ones that did the Oppo research to drive hate and division. We didn't do it. You did. I don't mean you, Kaivan, but I mean your side.
Kaivan, let me ask you this on the tattoo, since you brought it up again. Adrian Alexander says, if getting the tattoo covered up isn't the right thing to do, what, short of not getting it at all, is the right thing to do in this situation? Assuming he got it not knowing it was a Nazi tattoo, he learned it was, immediately got ahead of it and got it covered. Why is that wrong?
No, I'm sorry. I think that's very strange. You're going to I'm just saying, take a day, take 2 days, like make the plan. By the way, he said there was no available tattoo removal in the state of Maine, so that's why he didn't do it. I'm just saying it's a permanent mark on his body that it's not going to make the scandal better that he suddenly got an animal put over it in 12 hours. That just makes him sound, chaotic, frankly. It's a strange response, I think. By the way, just as it is, I have to say, it is strange to have a tattoo on your body for 20 years and not know what it means. And by the way, Organizer Meme's leftist account online has found him on Twitter in discussion threads about the exact tattoo from 6 years ago, discussing what all these things
Jake,
meant.
let me ask you that question. There is this debate about what he knew and when. I take his word. If he says he didn't know what it is, fine. But an anonymous source has told one publication that he talked about it in the past, being SS symbol, and it was very cutesy about it. The political director who quit last week said that he knew a few weeks ago, since August, that he had a problematic tattoo on his chest. If it turns out, because we're having this discussion, but things seem to be dropping every day, Oppo or not. If it turns out, Jake, that he was lying to us, that he knew this was a Nazi tattoo and he kept it for fun, would that be disqualifying? I know you don't like the word disqualifying. For you?
Yeah. All right. So there's a bunch of different issues here. So first of all, on the tattoo removal, so they said, oh, he didn't remove it for so many years. Oh, he removed it too quickly. Come on, guys. Which one is it? Right. So, or covered over it.
Well, it's not quick, Jake. If he knew about it since August was a problem. Why?
Okay. So look, in terms of I'll get to August in a second. In terms of the anonymous source, it's an anonymous source that talked to Jewish Insider. Okay. APAC. So I don't really care. I don't
What
know
about his political director in the Reddit thread?
Okay, so that's the one I'm getting to. So now the political director, that one's interesting. So because guys, if it comes out that there's a series of things that are verifiable, no, he knew it was an SS tattoo or a Nazi tattoo and he liked it and that's why he got it. Yeah, then of course that's going to make me reconsider. And then what I would want to do is grill the living hell out of him and go, what the hell were you thinking? And is that a thing that you have any strands of now? And did you change it 6 months ago? Or wait a minute, or 13 years ago, et cetera. So all that context matters a great deal. If his political director says, look, he became aware that it was problematic, but didn't do something, he was too slow to do something about it, that's a different question. Whereas if he says, no, he knew it was, related to the SS and
we're running out of time. You didn't actually answer my question, which is, if it comes out that he did mislead us on this, on a Nazi tattoo, would that be a deal breaker for you? I think it would be for me. If it was right now, I'm still on the fence. But
right. If it's crystal clear, then that he actually is currently hiding the fact that he's a Nazi, then of course
no, come on, Jake. That's not what I said. No one believes he's a Nazi, but that he was fine having a Nazi tattoo. He thought it was funny or thought it was fine.
No. Nobody thinks a Nazi tattoo is funny. I mean, that's crazy.
Okay,
that means you think he is a secret Nazi. So if he's a secret Nazi, I'm against him. Okay, and then by the way, he'll lose by 80. So what? So in the primary. So
before we wrap up, a couple more from the chat. Kaivan, somebody says, where's it gone? I just had it. You don't get it. Says, even people who love Janet Mills didn't want her to run for the Senate and unlikely to vote for it. As a Mainer, I'm offended by this whole conversation. And someone else says, Sarah Gideon spent $63 million in 2020, lost by 10 points. She lost because she ran like an establishment Democrat. Kaivan.
Bingo.
Well, I think, again, getting back, I don't think Janet Mills necessarily even really wanted to run for this seat. I mean, don't you guys get that sense from everything that's gone on?
Isn't that confirming? Isn't that confirming Cenk's point then?
No, I think here's the through line. They've realized that they have an imploding viral sensation on their hands at a time when Susan Collins is at her weakest, and there is an opportunity, a real chance here, and they want to take that chance, and I don't think they would have cared too much if Graham Platner had a little bit of experience, if he came off, he didn't have these scandals, maybe he'd ride it out, maybe Janet Mills wouldn't get the time of day, maybe she would have stayed out of this race, but because...
Kaivan, aren't you confirming the critique from some on the left and on the popular side, which is, you keep saying experience, but then you're saying Americans shouldn't run for office unless they're part of the establishment?
How did I say that?
You said maybe if you had a little bit of experience.
But you don't think any local, what? You're the local.
I don't think so. We have a fucking president who was a reality TV star.
Yeah, I'll take Jon Stewart in a second.
Imagine that he ran for local office. Imagine he ran for local office. Some of this stuff might have come up. then we might have
I
seen
agree with you on that.
he's actually fantastic.
He's clearly screwed up the vetting.
He's great. No, but let me
clearly
say,
screwed up his own
it's
vetting.
not about just being establishment. You don't need to be establishment. There's all sorts of ways to show leadership. He hasn't done any. He worked for Blackwater. That's what we know of his record. I mean, and by the way, another point of massive hypocrisy. The same people that didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton because she gave speeches to Goldman Sachs are rallying behind the progressive icon, a Blackwater employee. I mean, it's a
You just brought up a new point. We're out of time. Jake, last word. Blackwater guy. Do you want to deal with that?
No. By the way, when I saw that, that was the thing that could concern me more than anything else.
But
So I get it, but he was, look, he was in the military. Look, the bottom line is, do we want to win this thing? And do we think that he has a much better message? And at this point, that's kind of inarguable. He definitely has a better message. Yeah, this is the vetting, and then the voters decide. So the problem with the establishment is they want only establishment candidates. And guys, we're not talking about the elephant in the room, which is, of course, they don't want Schumer and the Democrats don't want him to win the primary because he's not pro AIPAC. And so that's obvious.
That is undeniable. I think his position on Gaza has clearly pissed off a lot of people. We're out of time. Kaivan, somebody asked in the chat, is the painting behind you a self-portrait?
No, I did have an ex did draw that on my face. It's a tattoo you poster for Rolling Stone.
Well, since we've been talking about tattoos, what are those tattoos? This is the kind of debate I thoroughly enjoy because I actually agree with both of you at many points during the discussion. Cenk Uygur, Kaivan Shroff, appreciate you both. Thanks so much. Everyone at Zeteo, thank you for watching. We appreciate you all. We are out of time. Bye-bye. Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications. For exclusive content and to support our independent, unfiltered journalism, head over to Zeteo.com. Your support matters.